You'll find in your bag 4 sticks. We'll use 2 at a time to make a cross that we're going to build the God's Eye on. I've chosen my colors. You'll notice that I've got a rubber band on each one of these balls of yarn. You will find them on yours as well. That's keeping yarn spaghetti from happening in your bags. If you would, once you get done with them, put the rubber band back on them, I would appreciate it very much. Then when I get back these balls of yarn from you at the end of the school year, I don't have to put rubber bands back on another 450 balls of yarn. Thank you very much. What color do I want in the center of my God's Eye? I think I will start out with yellow. And I could do the entire God's Eye in yellow. I don't have to change color, but I like to change color, and you might too. So this is how we'll start it. I'm going to tie the 2 of them together, kind of in the same area. I can make that a double knot. But I will have them at cross purposes to one another there. So you see here, I have tied them this way. I also want to tie them this way. So I'll take this. Can you see how that goes around this way? I'll take it now this way and this way, so that in the end, the plus sign will have string going around all 4 ways. Here, 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 and here. And then I have a yarn source and I have a tail. Now the tail is going to just lay along one of these sticks in the back, and it's going to get encased with the wrapping. So I'm not worried about him very much. This guy is probably best just to drop him on the floor. If you have a bowl you can put it in, then that's good. It won't roll around and catch the attention of your cat. Let's make sure that this is pretty much in the center. I can move it again later a little bit, but why not start out in a good position? Okay, to do a God's Eye, there's 2 motions. There's wrap the stick, and there's the move across to the next one. And wrap the stick. That's catching that tail. And move to the next one. Wrap the stick and move to the next one. To wrap the stick, I'm going towards me at the bottom and up and around and away from me. And then I move to the next stick. Every time I move to the next stick, it's laying on the back side a really pretty, shiny square diamond that is going to, in the end, make up the God's Eye. Go around that one and go to the next. Go around that one and move to the next. And every time I get to the one that has the tail on it, I'm careful to wrap around and include the tail as well. And wrap it around and go to the next. Wrap it around and go to the next. Wrap it around and go to the next. Let's see what it looks like on the other side. Isn't that cool? Now I can decide how big I want my yellow center to be. I like yellow a lot, so I'm going to put on a lot of yellow. But then I think I will go to the orange before I go to the red, because orange is a mixture of yellow and red, and with orange in between the yellow and the red, I might get a look like it's like kind of fading from one into the other, and I like that. All right, my tail is well concealed, and now I think I can cut it off because it's not going to come out. I've hidden it long enough. Get rid of the tail without snipping any of the working yarn, please. Now, as I'm laying this across, I want to be sure that I'm not having them end up to be an X. I do want it to be a plus sign. And I also want to make sure that I'm trying to get about the same amount of yarn in between. If I just wind very loosely and then suddenly go very tight, then things will start to buckle on this side. I want this to stay really pretty. Around, around, and travel to the next one. And I also want to be careful that I'm not pushing this in and making that buckle. I want it to be as much as possible all pulled out as far as it can go towards the outside of the plus sign. Around and to the next one, around it, around it, around it. All right, that's getting to be, now like I say, I could just continue doing this because a yellow God's eye would be really pretty. Or I could do yellow all the way out to here and just finish it with just a little bit of another color just to kind of give it a nice frame. But I think I want to go to orange here. What I'm going to do is I will lay it down so that it doesn't unwind on me. And I can cut that off with a bit of tail and go to my next color. My next color is going to be orange. And so I'm going to put the orange into the bowl at my feet so that it unwinds without bothering me. These two I'm just going to lay them together and do an overhand knot. That's a knot that's not going to come out. Do you agree? And now I can just continue winding as before. The only thing I want to do is make sure that the knot ends up on the back side, not the front side of my God's eye. Now, you tell me if that doesn't start to look about as festive as it could be. I love it. I'm not going to try to encase these as I go around. Those are just going to hang out in the back of my God's eye. And around, go to the next one, around, go to the next one. Every time I go to the next one, I'm turning the frame counterclockwise. And I'm always working with the one that's right here. And next question is, how much orange do I want before I go to red? I want to keep checking to make sure that nothing is collapsing towards the center. Everything wants to be pulled out as far as possible. I think these things are pretty even from the back. All right, I think maybe I'm ready for some red. So same thing as before. I'm going to place it down on its face so that it doesn't shift on me. Get this one out of the mixing bowl. Take the red one. It's really simple to change colors, you see, because you don't need to do it in a special spot or anything. You just continue winding and suddenly there's your new color. Another way to get a lot of color in these things is to do it with a variegated yarn. I want to be careful not to put a lot of tension on it by now because I've got a long span of yarn here between the frame, and I could conceivably make things kind of wonky if I pull too hard. So I'm using a light touch. You see, there's that knot. It's not going to show on the other side. It's just going to hang out on the back. All right. Excellent. I think that's what I want to have. I have room for a couple of beads on this, or I could keep going until I had only one bead, but I'll do this one with two. To finish it off, I've done my round. Now I'm going to make a capital D. Let's see, backwards capital D. There's my capital D. And put this through. Basically, it's an overhand knot. There's another capital D. And it comes around behind and comes through the capital D. And that will give me 2 half hitches that are going to hold that in place. I can put a little dab of twice as tacky glue on there as well and hold that in place. Pull everything out from the center so that everything is nice and even. Oh, I like that. That's so pretty. What color shall I put on it for beads? Could do white. Let's see that I have enough in my bag to do what I want. How about that? And that. Do you like those colors? These beads should be just the right size to fit into these dowels. But if they don't, you can get yourself a little sandpaper or something, but they should fit on pretty nicely. They all can, that one may need a little bit of glue. This is a natural product. These are bamboo skewers for cooking, and so they're going to be a little bit different diameter in different places. I'll put that on with some glue. And this one, of course, is just a little small. It doesn't even want to go on. But with a little bit of encouragement, it'll go on. Pull him back into position. What did I do? Red first. And then yellow. Red first, and then yellow. And there is my God's eye. I can make a little loop of yarn and I can hang him right up. They look really nice in the window. They look nice on the wall. They look nice on a Christmas tree. Okay, it seems that my golden doodle is going to help me teach the second God's eye. So this will be starting out the same as the first. This one is going to be a double-sided God's eye. So there is my first knot. I open it up into a plus sign and send the threads around the way they didn't go before, so that they are all 4 sides have the yarn there. Now the double-sided one, I'd like you to have made at least one of the single-sided before you go on to do this. But I am going to be winding both a God's eye on the front and a God's eye on the back at the same time. And for that, I need to be able to tell where I am. I'm going to label one of the sticks. Let's find one that it'll fit. There we go. That will be my orientation. Why don't I even make that where the tail is going to hide? Okay, the ball of yarn goes in a mixing bowl on the floor. And we start winding. So around. So I've got the pink at the top. And I am winding and going to the next. Winding and going to the next. Winding and going to the next. And here I am at the pink. I'm going to wind it. And then I'm going to go back the other way, laying the pretty part of the God's eye towards me. Remember that pretty square? Good. Now here I am back at the pink again. Now I have to work on the God's eye that's happening on this side. And up at the top, here I am on the pink, and I'll flip to the side. This will make sense in just a little bit. Once I get to the pink, I flip it over, I see where I need to go to make this God's eye, making sure that I'm laying it right next to the last one. There I am at the pink again. When I get to the pink, I flip it over and I say, okay, I will continue in this direction. Wrap and travel, wrap and travel. When I'm at the pink, I still am grabbing that. Occasionally, since this one I'm just pivoting at this point, occasionally I have to wrap it around the pink one in order to have it grow at the same speed as the others are growing. So let's flip over and do this one. We can call this the back God's eye. Get here, flip around. We're going to do the front God's eye. When I get to the pink, let me do another wrap for it so that it gains some height. Flip it around, do the back God's eye. Here I am at the pink, flip it over, do the front God's eye. If you're going to change yarn colors while doing a two-sided God's eye, it's kind of cool because you can take the yarn tails and just stick them between the two here, because that's going to grow up here to be two levels of cloth, and you can just hide your knots down in the little corner there. And here I am at the pink. Pink makes it flip. Work on the God's eye on the other side. Made it to the pink. Flip. Without the pink there, here I did an extra one around there so that I can have it growing at the same speed as its friends. Without the pink bead, it's really easy, unless you're counting, to lose track of where you are. You need to count the 4. And I know in a class that's kind of hard to do because you get distracted because your neighbor's talking and then you don't know where you are. And then your teacher interrupts your thought process. That one's getting a little short again. I better give him another wrap when I get back to the pink one. Do you see what I mean? These guys are growing quickly. This guy isn't, because a lot of times I'm just pivoting around this instead of wrapping it completely. So occasionally I need to wrap it completely before I turn him around and say, oh, here we go. You'll see my color is starting to change because it's a variegated yarn. I didn't need to tie a knot to change the color. It's changing on its own. I'm going to give him another wrap. And here comes the second color. I'm going to give him a wrap around. I don't need to wrap every time, but it's good to wrap when I see that he's getting short. Your parents probably made these at summer camp. That's where I learned how to make them. wonder if I'll be able to make it to the next color on this one. The yarn that I'm using has just about the right length of color that you can get like half of a God's eye out of it. Whoa, did I forget to? Ha ha! That's what happens, teacher, when you're talking and not paying attention. When I hit the pink bead, I have to turn around and do the other side. I'll give that a complete wrap. I think the next color that comes up on this yarn is red. So as I start to see, I think I start to see some flecks of red coming up. So maybe I can get this to give me a frame of red around my yellow and green God's eye. So you can see I'm just making two God's eyes at the same time. Oh, there's my yarn. And I don't think I'm going to make it to the red before I run out of space on my stick. So you can see that's how the double God's eye gets made, both wound at exactly the same time. The important thing being one of the sticks is a signal that this is where the turnaround happens.